Hey everybody, it's Aaron and Jim. We are here today. It's been a long time coming, but we have promised for some time a look into the Bald Move finances to kind of take a peek behind how the empire operates and how we earn money and how we spend money. And our hope was that this was going to be a big triumphant. We've made it and we've arrived, and look at us, lords of all that we survey. Unfortunately, last week we got thrown a curveball, and we were informed by Amazon that they were dropping us from the affiliate program. Not a lot to say about that. There was a couple of technical violations of the affiliate agreement or the guidelines that we are committing, and we had a conversation about how we could get right with that. But I think they weren't interested. I think they just kind of wanted us off. It seems I got the impression that we making maybe too much money. I'm not exactly sure. It wasn't a long, fruitful conversation. But the fact is that Amazon dropped this. Now, I've said many times before during the different appeals for support that Amazon makes up about a third of our income. And we're going to go over that and the impact it has on Bald Move and how you can kind of help us out. Because the fact is, if things keep going as they are, and if nothing changes with Amazon's money removed, Bald Move's in a bit of trouble. So don't want to necessarily panic, and I have every confidence that we'll be able to weather the storm with the community's help and your help in particular. But if you're interested in how an internet startup works and our finances, I think you'll be interested in there. And then if you also want to, if you're moved to help us out, then that would be great. I'm going to kick it to our presentation at this time. I prepared a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation to kind of explain all this and walk through it. So, Bald Move Financials, past, present, and future. Here is the story of Bald Move starting in 2013. That's when we actually made a little bit of money. We made a little bit of Amazon affiliate money. We did a test Kickstarter to kind of see if the community would support us expanding our coverage in return for some money. And as you can see, we made a little bit in 2013. And it might have been foolhardy to go full time in 2014, but we had some internal debate and we thought that it was best to kind of strike while the iron's hot. We both were relatively debt free at the time. We felt like we could weather the storm, and we did the numbers and we thought about how traffic might grow, and we decided to take the plunge. 2014, you can see we definitely increased our revenues, and we've actually had really nice increases every year. And you also will notice that there's a pre-Amazon and a post-Amazon. 2016 kind of shows the problem that we, from August on, we're no longer going to get the Amazon money, and there's a real shortfall in income in 2017 as a result. So before we go much further, we need to do an examination of how much a podcaster needs. What do you need to give a podcaster so he can eat and sleep under a roof? We came independently, arrived at different budgets, and Jim decided that a bare bones budget that allows him to operate a vehicle and have a roof over his head and food in his belly was $32,000. You'll also notice that it took a while to get to that salary level. And that we were running deficits in 2014 because we need $32,000 to survive. You only take $18,000. That's a pretty big deficit. But also, we gave ourselves a raise in 2016 to $38,400 a month, which made Jim pretty happy. He's not quite out of the woods yet, but he's definitely on his way. I mean, we've been saying that all year that you've essentially made it at this point. I, on the other hand, is my situation's different. The difference between Jim and I is that I have a kid who I pay child support $300 a week on. That means that I need more money essentially. And my minimum has always been $38,400. And you see, in 2014, I took way under that. And as a result, ran up quite a deficit that I still haven't quite paid back. We resolved to give ourselves raises in 2017 so I could actually start making more money. Because the other thing is, I've had some bad luck. It turns out my son has a genetic condition called it's either hypodysplasia or hypoplasia. But the upshot is all of his adult molars are coming in without any enamel, and they almost instantly need crowns put on them, and those are about $1,000 per tooth. I've had that. I've had a couple other setbacks. That's why, if you notice down here, let me turn on my laser pointer. If you just look at the numbers and my minimums, I'm running at a $23,000 deficit, but I'm actually closer to $45,000 in the hole. I racked up that much credit card debt, and also I took, I think, $15,000 out of my 401k in the first year, and then another $5,000 at the beginning of this year just to make sure that I can make ends meet. I don't want to construe this as like whining or complaining. I mean, I had my eyes wide open when I got into this situation. I'm just trying to explain why we can't just tighten our belt. Like, I'm kind of at the end of my rope, or at my willingness to continue to kick money into to Bald Move. And the way our company is structured, if I were to take more money and Jim to take less money, Jim would actually get equity in the company in return.
The
big problem with that,
Move.
the big problem with that is once he would get 66% in the company, I would essentially become a silent partner, which would be a bummer.
Yeah, I could outvote you on everything.
Right, and then I would have to eventually pay. If I didn't want that to happen, I'd be taking out a loan to Bald Move that I have to pay back. I'd be even further underwater, and I feel like I just can't do that anymore. So that's kind of like explanation, and I don't know how much money people thought we were getting paid, but I just want to be completely transparent with the kind of budget that we've been under. So Bald Move income. This is average income, and keep in mind this is an average, and I'm going to show why that's important here in a couple slides. But this gives a good kind of breakdown of where we received our money up until August. You'll notice that the biggest piece of the pie is our club yearly sales. People see the wisdom in saving money and getting a year at a time. Second is our Amazon money. It represents, I think this slice is about 29% of our operating expenses or operating income. The other big piece here is shop sales. Actually a bigger slice than monthly sales. Shop sales represent commission podcasts, represent merch. That's a little bit fatter than you would expect because we had a really successful campaign with the Jon Snow House Snow t-shirt in May and June. But hopefully we can kind of replicate that going forward. We also then have ad income. That's again an average that comes and goes. We don't have it all the time, but this is again a monthly average. We also have our monthly club sales. We have other, which essentially is people just straight up donating cash. It's about, I think that slice represents about $400. Sometimes people mail us cash or checks. Sometimes people just use the PayPal feature to donate. And then that little teeny tiny sliver is Amazon AdSense, which we have on our webpage, and it doesn't contribute much, but it's $100 or so every month. Why not? Breakdown of our costs. This is also an average, but these costs don't really fluctuate very much. You'll notice that our total income averages out to be $12,000. Our total expenditures is $11,500. Some of these expenditures are very new because we looked at forward. We were forward looking and saw that we could afford a studio and we could afford bigger servers. And by the time I explain all these slides, I think it'll make sense where we were going with this. But as you'd imagine, our biggest expenses are payroll, paying Jim and I. Our second biggest expenses are payroll tax. Then we also have this, I don't know why it's not showing up the exact amount, but there's a dividend. We're an S Corp, so we can actually take some of our salary, not our salary, but some of our income as dividends, which helps us save a bit on a tax bill. You can't take everything in dividends and dodge taxes because that's something that immoral ethically bankrupt people do, and we like to contribute back to society. Or idiots that way. We also pay membership fees. You might ask, what is that? That is essentially credit card gateway fees. The process, how much the banks charge us to actually take money. It adds up. We also have our new studio rent, which is just at around $500. Pagely is our servers. Month in, month out, that averages about $500. During peak Game of Thrones season, it might go up to $750, maybe $1,000. But then we'll be having extra traffic and presumably club members to help defray those costs, and then a bunch of other stuff. The slush fund is one thing I want to talk about. That's actually, when we created this, we wanted a slush fund so we could budget equipment breaking. When our mixer dies or a microphone dies or cable dies, we have that money and we don't have to like go beg for it. And we typoed it when we were doing our spreadsheets years ago, and it became the slush fund. That's how most Bald Move stuff starts. Now there's also this big purple other, and just to give you, I actually broke all that down. It's first run movies. This is an average. This is a high average because this is essentially us going to movies like 3 times a month. We don't do that every month, obviously. We actually budget $100 for booze in the studio because we have the legendary Bald Move liquor supply that is the real secret sauce to the fuel behind the company. And we also budget some food because Jim and I like to eat out together about once a week. But everything else is pretty self-explanatory. We just got various tools that we need to do our jobs, various services that we need to do our jobs. So moving on, the reason I said that the average was important is because the money certainly doesn't come in that nice and orderly. As you can see, we are a seasonal business, and during the dead of summer, once Game of Thrones goes off the air and before The Walking Dead, we kind of traditionally have a lull. We also, in the dead of winter, we have a lull. You'll see that there's a spike in December and a spike in September where people are buying Halloween costumes and Christmas stuff. Traditionally, that's our biggest Amazon months. But then we do have our monster summers, and that's kind of like, Game of Thrones season and Walking Dead season. That's kind of what pays the bills around here. If we move on, you see our income versus expenses and why we're kind of in trouble now. With Amazon, we were looking forward to getting pretty big windfalls in September and December. And even though we in the dead of winter, we have a little bit of a shortfall, these windfalls kind of make it up and smooth things over. Once Amazon goes away, red is bad, blue is good. You can see that red is definitely winning the war now. We don't have those windfalls, and we're just flat out losing money. And the bottom line is we are looking pretty bad. We're sitting on about $24,000 in our account right now. But we are steadily, this is a screenshot I pulled from what we call our cash flow document, where we can run simulations and forward-looking analysis. And if nothing changes, you see we steadily lose money and eventually go bankrupt in February. And we lose more money in March. We lose even more money in April. Things start to stabilize when Game of Thrones projects to kick back in. But by that time, we've gone without paying ourselves for several months, and we're done. We're done. And it's kind of a bleak scenario that we're looking at a $38,000 operating deficit for next year, according to our projections when Amazon's taken out. So this brings us to the topic of surviving versus thriving. Jim and I never intended or wanted to get rich off Bald Move, and we certainly haven't succeeded so far. But we priced the club at $1 a month. This was something we did because as a result of not being satisfied with the various pricing strata of Libsyn and Subbable, or not Libsyn, sorry, Patreon and Subbable. And we priced that. We thought, man, if we made it like a no-brainer, could we at least get 5% of our audience to contribute? You can see the math here. Our current members is just around 4,000. Our total audience, our max audience, weekly audience is 266,000, meaning our total share of the audience that are club members is 1.7%. So even if you roll back and take our current club members and our current level of support back to our 2015 audience, max size was 81,000. It's still barely making it, and that's blatantly cheating. Like, we are paying the server costs and the bandwidth cost for this audience, and we're getting this support. So obviously that strategy failed, but we weren't in trouble. Why? You might ask. Well, number one, Game of Thrones has exploded for us. Like, as you can see, that was the top Game of Thrones audience the year before. This is the top Game of Thrones audience this year. That's massive, crazy, way beyond our dreams growth. We also sold more ads than expected in our calculations. And also, the big thing is Amazon continued to exceed our expectations. Every year, we'd looked for, when is Amazon going to cool down? When is it going to fail to meet our projections? And it just wasn't doing it. And this year, we exceeded every single month our goal. But now that Amazon's gone, unfortunately, we're just failing. We are not surviving. We are not thriving. I also want to talk about some future threats, because when Jim and I, this time of year, we sit down and we kind of talk about, the upcoming year and what we're going to do. And we like to look at things that can screw us. And one of the big ones was Amazon. The fact that we had no control over that revenue stream. That's just largesse that we get from Amazon for just mentioning their link. It was long something we feared. If that day came, could we replace a third of our operating income? So that's come and went. It's already been a threat that's slapped us around. Our hosting provider, Libsyn, they have a program called Pro. If you look back at our expenses, Libsyn was only about $150 a month. The reason it's so low is because Libsyn actually takes 50% of our ad revenue. So it's artificially low. Like, we sold something like $18,000 of ads, so they generated $18,000 of revenue off of our podcast. If they made us go pro, that means we'd have to start paying for our own bandwidth at a discounted rate, but still our calculations show that we'd be paying anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 extra a month. Now, we'd get more of the ad revenue share, which would partially offset that, but the bottom line is that ad stuff is sold in the future. We would need the money now. And that's something that could, at any time, again, we have no control over it. Now, I don't think Libsyn is wanting to force us into that, because I think they're happy with the arrangement of trading bandwidth for ad sales. But again, they could change their corporate philosophy, and we have no control over this cost, so it's definitely a threat. The other one is our video features. Right now, most of our club features are served off of private YouTube videos, and I know there's a threshold that YouTube sets where you can have so much private and you have to have so much public, because the private stuff, they don't make any money on the monetization. At some point, there could be an algorithm in YouTube that says, oh, Bald Move is over the secret threshold and they got too much private video, terminate their account, and suddenly we would be left without a real good way to run the club. Obviously, if we are a big media company, we would be paying for all this bandwidth, and we should have a way to pay for all this bandwidth. You can't use entry-level free tools for long when you go professional.
And you certainly can't rely on them for your business model.
No.
And that's what we have been doing to date.
Right. And that's why we're in a situation now, whereas Amazon decided they're going to do something different, or they weren't satisfied with our performance, and now we're suddenly have a third of our money just evaporate. Not because we did anything wrong or we did anything bad or we pissed off listeners, something completely out of our control. So Jim and I have thought about, like, what does it take to survive? What does it take to not just survive, but to thrive? What does it take to guarantee Bald Move security and the fact that we can continue doing these podcasts and start to grow? Because I know that, we like to do more. We like to do more club features. We'd like to do more content and have more time to concentrate on that. But we're kind of tapped out in time, and we're certainly tapped out in money. Well, step one is we are starting a fundraiser right now. And there'll be a call to action at the end of this where you can find out how you can support us with that. But point is, we have to get through the harsh Georgian winter. If February rolls around and we have no money in the bank, then we're done. I don't know what happens at that point. So hopefully people can help us make up the shortfall. Second is we effectively immediately are increasing the price of the club to $5 a month or $48 a year, which saves you 2+ months free if you go the yearly. Now I know that's a huge increase, but we are going to argue why it's necessary and why it's kind of in line with market expectations. Jim, do you want to speak to the market analysis?
Yeah, so I took a look at a bunch of different sites that both you and I are fans of, and that we have at some point either currently or have in the past subscribed to. We've been on the Patreon system. I looked at a website called Graphtreon, which takes all of the stats from across all of Patreon, and it says, here's the dollar amount of all pledges across Patreon, and here's the number of pledges total. And when you do some simple division and you just divide the number of dollars by the number of pledges, it comes out to an average pledge of $5.65. That's actually gone up in the previous months because I've done this twice now. So that was a pretty good indicator that the majority of people who are pledging online, because Patreon's kind of the leader in that, are doing it at that level.
Back when we were doing Patreon, that was certainly the average level of support for us as well.
Right. Then Giant Bomb, which I'm currently a subscriber to, they charge $5 a month, or you can go $50 yearly and save a couple of months worth of fees. Penny Arcade, which I know we're both a fan of, they are by far the lowest, and it's shockingly low actually. And I don't know how they run their club this way.
Well,
it
they
must
have
be propped up by their other business.
Yeah, they have giant conventions that gives them millions of dollars of operating expense and
millions
of
ads fans, and they make it up on scale. But their prices range anywhere from $1.67 a month to up to $5 a month. They do that as well.
They have
and
the tiered level support.
Max Fun's a little weird because they also have tiered level support. $5 is the absolute minimum you can subscribe to them for. And they go all the way up to $200 a month if you want to get really insane. Yeah, so then Harmontown, which is, I know you're a fan of Harmontown. He does, 4 podcasts, 4 video
4 to
streams
5 video streams
per
month. And this month you only get 3 because he took a week off for some reason.
Right, and if you think,
$5.
If you think, oh, well, Dan Harmon's clearly more famous than you guys, he's only charging
and
$5.
funnier.
Well, he does a lot less content
than
we do. We put out 10 times the content that he does.
As Napoleon said, quantity has a quality all of its own.
Right. Then I took a look at some of the big boys. Gimlet Media is the startup podcast guy. He charges $5 a month for his, and Audible Channels, which, if you don't know, is Audible's subscription podcasting platform. They only allow you to subscribe yearly, and it's $60 a year, which averages out to $5 a month, or breaks out to $5 a month. So everything kind of points to $5 a month.
So that's
I can tell.
The market research in. We got another way to come at this here in a bit too. But first I want to talk about the challenges, because it's not like this is woo, turn on the money spigot. First of all, our existing membership system works against us, because not only does it suck, I mean, it's gotten us this far, but it fails a lot more than it should auto-renewing, and it struggles with people's expired credit cards, and
not granting membership access to people who should have it.
Right.
Have to manually go in and fix those.
Right. There's also, we're going to explain how you can subscribe to the increased rates, because right now you're locked in as long as your as long as your membership is active. You've got the current rate. Our new membership system we're going to, that we'll be talking about here in a minute, is opt-in. That means right now, if you do nothing to your Club Bald Move membership, it auto-renews every single time. Since we don't store your credit card information, we have got no way to port that to the new system, which means that everybody's is essentially set to not auto-renew. When we go live with the new system, which hopefully will be before the end of the year, everyone is going to have to decide to rejoin Bald Move, and we'll probably lose a lot of people because they don't have an active subscription, or they're not paying attention to their emails, or they've changed their emails, or for whatever reason. Also, the new membership system doesn't allow name your price, even though we only charge $12 a year, $2 a month. If you look, we did the math. The average person contributes $2.66 per month. So that's 66 cents of altruistic goodwill money. People, the average yearly subscription is I think $13.77. Again, that's $1.77 of just free goodwill money, because some people pay 20 or 30 or whatever. And we really appreciate that. It's super nice of you, but the new system doesn't support that. We know some percentage of fans are not going to be able to afford supporting us at the new price. And God knows I don't want to take food out of your family's mouth or, I mean, we're just at the end of the day, a silly podcast network. You need to take care of yourself first. It's a bummer. I hate it. I mean, obviously we wanted to do the good guy thing and give it away as cheap as we can, but that's no longer working for us. And then last, communication. Like, we have a newsletter, but unfortunately our biggest audience, Game of Thrones, is several months behind us. I mean, we certainly are going to blast this out to all of our feeds to kind of do this SOS, but how many people still subscribe during the off season? How many people, if they do subscribe, are actually going to check that feed? How many people are going to visit our website? How many people can reach on social media? It's not going to be the largest bulk of the fans, and by the time that comes back in Game of Thrones next year, if we haven't succeeded, it'll be too late. So there's just a few of the challenges of this approach that we can see right off the bat. But it's not just about cranking up the club membership. We actually have a multifaceted way to attack this problem to continue to grow. Number one, we want to focus on one new piece of merch each quarter. That's our goal. Now that's easy to say, hard to do, because we have to come up with a great idea that people would actually want to buy as a t-shirt. We found out with the House Snow t-shirt that actually filling that is kind of a pain in the ass, and it takes a lot of time and effort. But it's certainly profitable if you do it right. And we learned a lot from that experience, and I think we can make that happen and generate some revenue there. Also, we want to push content into YouTube. That's a huge untapped market for us. On the other hand, I don't think we can just throw out the video feed of our 90. First of all, that would cannibalize club sales, because that's one of the features. You get to watch us record the video. Right. If we just put that on YouTube, well, there's one less incentive for the club. But I think there's a way we could package parts of those conversations into a way that would appeal to a YouTube audience. The problem is, do you have time to do that, Jim?
Not really, no.
I'm pretty much working a full-time job here.
We're cranking out 5 podcasts a week.
which brings us to the second thing here, which is a new hire. And we put, just for sake of argument, $48,000. We're looking for someone who's young, who maybe has just got out of school and doesn't have a lot of practical experience, would want to work with, I don't want to use the word cool because I don't see myself as cool, but a cool startup and get some experience that way. We want to pay them a fair wage. We want to be able to pay their taxes. We want to be able to pay their insurance and be good, responsible employers, and also guarantee them a future. I don't want to hire someone and then 3 months later, hey, you're laid off. It might be more than that. It might be less than that, but that's kind of what we've earmarked. We want to create a mobile app for $25,000. So that's the budget that we've set for it. That's, Jim and I have been professional developers. That's our gut tells us what the features we need and the things we want, that's about what the going rate's going to be. And that'll solve a lot of problems, because I know a lot of people are turned off from the club right now because it's difficult. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to get the ad-free feeds. It's difficult to get the premium feeds, because you have to go in and do a whole bunch of manual URL jiggering on your client, and we don't have any control over that, and that sucks. If we have a free app that people can download and get all of our content, and then they just plug in their username for Bald Move, and bam, all that stuff unlocks, that'd be awesome, and that's what we want to get to. We're also right now paying to revamp our membership system to go to from WooCommerce that we rolled ourselves to Recurly, which is going to take care of a lot of those problems for us, the auto renewal problems. It's going to be a much better system. It's going to free a lot of overhead from our servers, but it also costs. We're hiring a developer, a talented WordPress developer, to do that for us, and then also, to help us push into YouTube, we're just using glorified webcams and kind of amateur lighting rigs. And I think if you look at the state of art of YouTube, it's much better than that. And we priced out a professional camera system with a stream aggregate box and all the lighting, and it's going to be around $12,000 to get that done. Bottom line is, as previously explained, we are in a $38,000 hole. We have all those projects, $93,000 of new expenditures, which is $131,000 that we need to make up. Now, you might say, like, gee whiz, pretty arrogant to start counting your costs before you had everything, your ducks in a row. Amazon was projected to be that for us. It was projected to be $135,000 of our 2017 revenues, and we always underestimate what we get. I mean, that's kind of in our nature to be pessimist. We were fully expecting to make a comfortable margin above that, and then make smart decisions. Like, we don't hire the employee until we know the revenue's there, but the revenue's not there, and we're in a big hole, and we can't do any of these projects right now. Now, the other thing is, obviously, we're not going to retain all of our club members. People are going to not be able to afford it. People are going to, because of the nature of our new system, not going to have the opportunity to renew, or they're going to choose to renew. And we've looked at the revenue income. If we can retain 90% of the club, which is, I think, wildly optimistic, we generate $238,000 of revenue, which would mean we have almost $100,000 cushion. What can we do with $100,000? Hire another employee.
Buy an island.
Buy an island. Get myself out of debt. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do. Maybe start getting back into charitable giving. I mean, that's something we did back before we started doing this as a full-time gig. Things we don't have the luxury to do now. At 75%, we have $183,000, which means we can do all of our projects and have a $50,000 cushion, which honestly is where I'd like to be, because I want to have kind of like some savings so that that if we have one of these other things befall us, that we're going to be able to take care of it, and we're not going to have to come hat in hand like we are today. At 50%, which I think is a worst case scenario, I do think that we're not going to lose more than 50% of the club, or at least I hope that at least that many see the value throughout the year. Because I think we're also going to be able to do more cooler features with some of these projects we're going to do. We still are made up our deficit, and we're going to be able to do some of the projects. Probably not hire an employee, because it'd be a bummer to hire them and then have to maybe lay them off, but get that. Get the camera system going so we can get that YouTube revenue stream going, get the mobile app going, because that will, I think, make the club more of an easy and user-friendly feature. And that's what we need to do, and that's why we played around with, like, okay, what if we just charge $3 a month and $36 a year? The thing is that we need it at those price, even at $4 and $4 a month, $40 a year, we needed upwards of 90% retention to hit those same financial goals. And
I don't think that's possible.
No, and why? Again, we're not trying to survive merely. We're trying to thrive at this point. We're trying to secure Bald Move's future, because we don't want to stop doing this, and I don't think anyone really wants us to stop doing it either. Common concerns we've seen so far from the fans: what about more ads? Yes, I would love to get more ads. The problem is a lot of the advertisers that you're familiar with the podcast are locked behind agreements with the big content networks, and
those big content networks require like exclusive agreements with them, which ups our hosting costs. And
we are actually in talks with a lot of them and trying to finalize the deals. But the other thing you got to realize with the way advertising works is that money's 6 months away if we inked it today.
At best, yeah.
It's not going to come through for us in time to save us.
And we're going into one of the lowest inventory seasons we have.
Sure.
After we come away from The Walking Dead and Westworld, which was a surprise and we aren't selling any ads on.
Right.
Then we're in the lull.
Right. More merch. Yes, we want to do that. But again, there's a spin-up time, and we're in our dead season. So the fact that, we don't have huge Game of Thrones audiences to advertise to right now for those merch. So that's probably not going to save us in time. Investors.
Well, also on merch, we don't make a lot from merch. With our store the way it is and doing drop shipping and not pre-printing stuff, we actually only make a few bucks on every shirt that we sell. So
I mean, I think we definitely want the pre-print, but still, it's not anywhere near as good as the club, where other than the credit card fees and our sweat equity, that stuff is pure profit. We have to ship things, we have to print things, we have to order the shirts, and there's material costs there.
A lot of time too.
Yes. Investors. Man, if there's some angel investor that wants to kick us $140,000 and
maybe a chic,
some chic,
find some chic out there,
I can hike up my skirts for, and would be willing to do that as a silent partner, because I don't want to give up control of Bald Move. Right. That would be, I don't think, I think I'm the best We're the best runners of Bald Move, and we don't want any interference. So if there's an investor like that and sounds like a good deal, hit us up, host@baldmove.com. We will take your money. We'll name the office after you. I just don't think there's a lot of that out there. Other affiliate links, number one, those take time to build up. I mean, as you saw, the slow ramp up of our Amazon money over time.
We spent 6 years building this affiliate program up to the point where it was a third of our income. To do that all over again is not a short-term proposition.
Yeah, we went from, in the beginning, making $5 to $10 a month off Amazon to thousands of dollars.
And Amazon is the affiliate out there. I mean, they are the big boy. So any affiliate we would replace it with would be a fraction of the income, and it would take years to develop.
So, yeah, and also I don't really want to be in the business of doing classic affiliate programs where I sell a product for someone and I get a teeny tiny cut of their revenue. Like, I would much rather sell my own product, Bald Move, and my own merch than I would trying to sell Fandango and Loot Crate and all that other stuff.
Because things like this scenario with Amazon can happen all over again.
Sure.
That's not income that we control.
What if you can't afford Bald Club to be a member of Club Bald Move anymore? I mean, that's the thing that's a bummer. And I've already heard from some people that want to support us, but they just can't. And I understand that. And I actually wish I had a way to just let people, just let people mooch or something. But we're in a position now that we've done the good guy route of charging the bare minimum, and it just didn't work, and it left us vulnerable to the situation we're in now. So I would say that if that's a problem for you, then what you need to be is rooting for us to hit some of these marks here, because if we're at these levels of revenue, that's going to give us the ability to do sales. Like, if we're in slow, like summer and winter, we might have a summer and winter sale where we do the club 30-40% off. I don't know. I'm making no promises. I'm just saying that if we have the money, it's our goal to make everyone that wants to be a club member be able to buy the club. That was our goal. That's why we did the $1 a month thing. And I would love to be able to help people out with that. What we don't want to do, we are morally opposed to paywalling our existing free content. I'm sure we could move the needle by taking, say, the spoiler edition of Game of Thrones and putting it behind a paywall, but
that's a short-term strategy.
Yeah,
that's very short-sighted.
You're saying I don't want to grow anymore when you put stuff behind a paywall, and I've seen other podcasters try it and fail. We need the growth. We need people to pour through our back catalogs and to hear all these podcasts to develop the personal relationship with us, so they get to the point that they're willing to support us. In fact, it's one of our core values. We actually sat down and wrote things that we wanted to make sure that none of us ever lost our minds and did. And one of the core values is we don't want to paywall our content.
And when we say content, we mean, the core content that we do, which is TV podcasts, right?
Obviously, our premium features are paywalled, but all the TV and pop culture essentially is for free. And that's a lot. That's the vast majority of our content. We don't want to do a multi-tiered Patreon system for membership, because when we had tiers where you pay $1 and you get nothing, you pay $5 you get this, and you pay $20 and then you get the lunch, we were producing content for a very small percentage of our supporters, and that's a bummer. Like, who wants to do some really cool thing like a Quit Your Pitchin' or a Silent Movies or even lunch, and there's nobody watching it or listening it? Like, that's a super bummer, and we don't want to do that. I don't want to sell our bodies on the streets. That's the other thing. I don't want to sell drugs. I don't want to do anything illegal. Otherwise, we're kind of open to suggestions. But, keep in mind, too, that we are introverted nerds. Like, we are not going to be the guys that cold call advertisers day in and day out and hound them to give us money. We are not going to be the types that can just go out there and talk to venture capitalists and get money that way. Like, there's strengths to our skill set. I mean, we built this thing with our own two hands and with our own intellectual capital and skills, whereas people that would be more talented in business or sales and marketing might have struggled with that stuff and never gotten off the launch pad. But, there's a lot of things I would love to be able to do. I'd love to be able to start calling people and getting these ads and just make connections and bam, get our way out of it. But I'm not that person. I don't think Jim is either. So here's our call to action. Number one, if you can, please donate. Go to baldmove.com/product/donate and give what you are comfortable with. Every little bit helps. We need to make up this $38,000 shortfall. That's the most critical thing. If we can do that, we're still floating. You can send us cash or check. I know some people don't want to use their credit cards online or they have other reasons, but we welcome that. And you can send it to 4790 Red Bank Expressway, Suite 221 in Cincinnati, Ohio, zip code 45227 if you'd like to do that. When your membership expires, please renew. You'll be contacted by an email when the membership expires and on the new system. And you'll be given an opportunity to renew then, and I hope you guys do. And if you're not a club member by now, please consider joining because we need you now more than ever at club.baldmove.com. Now, if you're an existing member, you can hit up our tip jar and donate, or you can actually upgrade your existing membership. Now, this doesn't work if you're a PayPal payer for some obscure bullshit WooCommerce reason, but you also can go to your membership and switch it from PayPal to credit card and then do these following steps. But you go to baldmove.com/myaccount, click the subscriptions option from the left-hand menu, find your active subscription. There should only be one. Click view, then click the switch subscription button, and then you'll be presented with the new either annual or monthly rate. If you're monthly, you can't go from monthly to yearly or yearly to monthly, but you can select a new tier that's available. Click sign up now and check out. Voila, you're on the new expanded. Again, this is something you would be doing for altruistic purposes. You are free to enjoy. We are not expiring anyone's accounts early. So if you can afford to help us out, please enjoy the club for as long as you've already paid for it at the existing rates. But if you can stretch yourself a little bit and help us out, it would be great if you could go ahead and accept the new the club pricing. I think that's it. I think there's no more to talk about. Again, there's the calls to action. I do hope that you can find some way to help support us because we do need it. And Bald Move cannot continue in its present capacity with its present amount of content without something giving. It's a bummer, but the reality is we lost $135,000 of our income. We were so close to being self-sufficient and making it. And the good news is if this works, we will be self-sufficient. We will be making it. Our future will be under our control. We'll have the money to respond to these other threats and maybe even engineer our way in advance so we're no longer relying on services that could screw us over and slit our throat. So this is the way forward. This is the way forward to continue to be independent podcasters. And if you see the value in what we do, and if you see the value in having an independent voice covering your favorite pop culture, please do one of these things and help us out. And we appreciate it. This is the community's chance to have a say in whether we go forward and to what extent we do. To the extent that we raise money, we're going to be able to do these projects to increase Bald Move and make it bigger and better. To the extent we don't, we're going to have to shrink back, contract, or maybe even cease operations. So the choice, it's in your hands, and if you can help us out, we really would appreciate it, and we'd be grateful to have your support. If you have any questions, I'm sure we'll be doing follow-ups throughout the fundraising throughout the crisis as the crisis persists. We'll be on our lunches to take Q&A. We'll also have a forum thread up that's stickied about the situation that you can talk to us there. I encourage you to do so or send us feedback at host@baldmove.com. And again, thank you for all of your support thus far and your continued support in the future.